Hello, class. My name is Robert Estes. Today, I will be covering the topics of environment, culture, and gender, and how these three things alone are related and affected by each other in more ways than most care to realize or even think about. Now, let's talk about the ability to accept someone, regardless of their class, race, or gender, has been quite the problematic topic across the globe since the beginning of time. Luckily, in recent years, ideals and norms have begun to change as our newer generations are becoming more educated and aware of these issues that have existed in the past and in turn have been pursuing ways to change them. However, the human behavioral patterns of prejudice and environmental degradation mustn't go unnoticed. There are four types of prejudice that need to be addressed. There is gender prejudice, racial and ethnic minority prejudice, sexual orientation prejudice, and class prejudice. All of these forms of prejudice lead to discrimination. On the other hand, according to studies, 45% of Americans are overweight, and 40% of Britons will be overweight in just a decade. The issue of prejudice dealing with race, gender, etc. can be dealt with by gaining public support and awareness for anti-prejudice social norms and having our government pass laws and regulations that require fair and equal treatment for all groups of people, no matter their color or gender or beliefs. Even more so than they already have, because clearly what has been done is not enough and is not working. The issue of environmental degradation is something that can be significantly reduced by simply cutting down on the overconsumption of food, mainly meats. And here's why. Deforestation is caused mainly by the need for cattle grazing and animal feed crops. Cattle is used for our hamburgers, steaks, pies, stews, etc. Those meals right there alone are a major part of our diet and lifestyle as Americans. For example, McDonald's and other fast food chains. Additionally, cows are responsible for producing massive amounts of methane, which, in case you're unaware, is the most potent natural gas and is a huge contributor to the temperature rise, which presents a whole host of environmental degrading issues like drought, sea level rise, etc. The Amazon acts as pretty much the lungs of our world, and by cutting down this vital ecosystem, we are reducing oxygen levels and moisture capture, which alleviates surface runoff and can lead to flooding, drought, you name it, it's doing it. The solution to this problem. One solution that I can think of would be a higher taxation on beef that would lead to an increase in consumption of other meats and let the market adapt with its substitutes, which it always adapts. We just have to force it in this case. Now, as we discussed, overconsumption of resources and materials definitely leads to environmental destruction. Economics professors note that all resources are finite, and continued consumption without safeguarding these materials leads to destabilization in the market until the equilibrium realigns. A question I'd like to raise that addresses a topic I'm very passionate about is, when will we as a nation begin to stand up for what's right and pass laws in order to protect the environment as well as support environmental justice and its movement? Well, I can tell you this. African American and low socioeconomic neighborhoods who are already struggling and fighting against adversity are the ones who are the most likely to live near hazardous waste facilities, which in turn leads to the alarming rates of asthma in adults and children, as we learned throughout this course during this semester. On a positive note, NEPA, or the National Environmental Policy Act, does its best to provide both physical and environmental protection to the people and areas where facilities are being built. NEPA also allows those affected by the building of these facilities to be a part of the decision-making process while allowing them to speak their minds and opinions on whether or not the specific facility should be built, along with the concerns they might have with the long-term effects of these buildings. This is a great start, but doesn't really change the fact that the chances of a child living in a family of low socioeconomic status is 3.5 times more likely to be hospitalized due to asthma than a child living in a financially stable, high-income family. Now, these communities have to live in conditions where toxic waste and the dumping of nuclear waste pollutes their drinking water daily, unlike middle to upper class communities that don't have these same detrimental complications. Female members of the lower socioeconomic communities that come from ethnic backgrounds are the ones the community will look up to and follow, mostly due to them taking on the traditional roles of being a mother and accepted by society as leaders. There has been enough cruel and unjust treatment upon women in the society that we all live in today. Women are not only oppressed when it comes down to their social class and race, but a large area of struggle is gender that they may identify as. Many want to believe that people in lower socioeconomic classes should get a job or are lazy, or those with different gender identities are just confused or need to figure out themselves, which relates to the decline of our natural resources and pollution and the belief that it's just a pattern and not real. The denying of humans their rights and the land that we live on is one that needs attention brought to it. Everyone in society, no matter their race, class, or gender, should be accepted and not discriminated against. The fight for women's rights in this country have made quite a significant impact and difference by allowing them to take control of their oppression in certain ways. However, the women who live in foreign countries where religion and cultural practices are dominant are still in the fight for advocating for these same rights, but having a hard time getting the same results. On Mejora Carter's TED Talks during this course, she discussed greening the ghettos and points out that just over the last 20 years, the growing number of feminist geographers has increased, which has been monumental in putting an end to the patriarchal view that geography once had. The evolvement of feminist geography now brings a possibility for better data collection and a focus on topics that may not have been addressed in more traditional studies. It also allows for a greater appreciation of women in the field of geography and an acceptance into a workforce that was not an opportunity before. Science, like development, came at the expense of the environment and the people, especially women, that relied on it to survive. Science deems anything that is not productive, that is, anything that can make a profit, as antiquated. Therefore, while science may say it has the best interest in the mind of all, the actions taken by scientists provide otherwise, as the end result is more focused on advancement and maintenance of patriarchal ideas. Now, over the years, we as a society have been fed information leading to only one conclusion. This conclusion is the general reasoning behind our planet being killed and is due to massive overconsumption, fossil fuels being burned, as well as the mining going on. These reasonings are also linked to food scarcity, climate change, economic breakdowns, as well as violent conflicts. There's quite a bit that needs to be done about these issues, but that will take a few steps in the right direction, starting with different leadership and eliminating patriarchy. While I don't believe that patriarchy is the sole cause behind our current climate Earth situation, I do think it plays a major role. Women are on the forefront of the environmental justice movement for a reason. They are more likely to feel its negative effects as well as die in environmental disasters. One could guess that this is due to stretched resources being distributed to men prior to women. As these women are on the forefront of this movement, they are taking the necessary steps in order to get rid of their repression and protect themselves. Now we can ask ourselves, what is it going to take for filmmakers to actually start promoting environmental justice and positive messages, as well as equal internalized messages within the television shows that are broadcasted in today's children's pop culture. The way messages in today's shows are able to seem like one thing but have a hidden meaning that means another completely is quite concerning for our current generation as well as the generations to come. The messages tend to promote the opposite of what environmentalists and environmental justice activists are trying to get across to the viewers. They make it seem as if social inequality is not an issue at all, and rather a normalcy, as well as getting away from our environmental concerns by diverting the attention away from the root of the causes. These opinions that are created by watching such broadcasts with hidden messages is in reality what shapes the opinions, ideas, and actions of the majority of the world that we live in. So, if we as a society can become more aware, more educated on the story and the world around us and their hidden meanings, then I believe that we can start moving in a positive direction with a very good end result. It will just take a lot of work and a lot of dedication on this issue. I just want to thank you guys for such a great semester. It has been amazing. I have learned so much, as I'm sure all of you have as well. I wish you the best holidays, and thank you again for watching.